following along, then you know that for the past month or so I have been taking part in a 1 month of rucking challenge. So essentially that means 1 month of doing weighted walking, which, as you can just see, means I have had the weight vest on and I've been going for walks every day, almost every day. And today is the last day of that month. So that was the last time that I had to take off that vest for a little while. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a break, and I am very happy to be saying that. Today I'm going to be going through how the month went, what was easy, what was hard, would I recommend this, would I keep doing it, and stick around because at the end I will go through the results. I did take a little bit of a before snapshot at the start of the month, and we'll be taking an update now at the end, and we'll see what changes there are, but not just the physical ones, because there have been quite a lot of changes that have happened as a result of this challenge. So let's get into it. So if you don't know what rucking is, it is essentially just weighted walking, or walking with some sort of weight on your back. So that doesn't necessarily have to be a weighted vest like the one that I've been using. It can be a backpack that you put some weight in the form of books, actual weight. You just need to be carrying some sort of load on you, and it doesn't have to be too much either. Plain and simply, you are just walking with some weight on your back, and it is a bit of a full body workout, especially for those people that maybe aren't able to or aren't too interested in getting into the whole running scene that seems to be blowing up at the moment. That's kind of why I went into using rucking instead. I'm not a runner, I can't run, I don't particularly want to at this point, and I did want an alternative though that was a little bit more intense than walking so that I could get a bit more results. So rucking is where I decided on, and the great thing about it is that it does have a load of benefits. So first and foremost, it is good cardiovascular exercise. I always preach on this channel that walking is one of the best things that you can do for your heart. So since the basis of this is walking, it's good for your heart and is a full body workout because your body needs to deal with the weight that you are now carrying. It activates your legs because of the added weight, and it activates your upper body because you do have to balance the weight that is now being placed on you. So it activates a whole lot of muscles, and because it's engaging all of your muscles, it can help with your overall strength depending on how heavy you go and how intense you choose to train with rucking. Now the other great thing is that because it is essentially walking, it's low impact on your joints. So for anyone that does have knee trouble, running can be a bit more high impact and hurt your knees or your joints. This is again a good alternative for that, and you're still going to get lots of benefits in terms of muscle strength and your cardiovascular fitness too. Now the third thing that rucking is very good for is it helps you with your everyday movements. So one of the things that we sort of take for granted is just going to the grocery store, getting our groceries and coming back and being able to lift that quite easily back to the house. As we age, these things tend to become harder and harder. So if you want to prevent that or just make it easier for you, something like rucking can really help improve these everyday activities. And essentially I'm saying it prevents sarcopenia, which is the age-related loss in muscle mass. It's very important to consider. And that's something that as we are all aging, we need to be aware of and protect our muscles regardless of what age we are. Now, I'm sure there's a whole lot more benefits, but again, I did mention them in my previous video. Essentially, the reasons that I really like rucking is because one, it's pretty easy to get into. Most people have enough weight around their house to chuck into a backpack and get moving. Walking is something that is very, again, easy to get into. If you're tired, if you're mentally exhausted after a long day at work, maybe getting to the gym is quite difficult to push yourself to do, but going for a walk, it is one of the easiest things you can do. So there's really almost no excuse. And the third, I really like that it is just a little bit more intense than walking, because I love walking, but sometimes I do get back from a walk and feel like I could have maybe pushed it a little bit harder. So adding the weight really just makes me feel like I did a bit more of a workout when I come back. As I said before, there's a pretty low barrier to entry with rucking. You just need some sort of weight on your back. I used a weighted vest, and the one I used was the Armatech vest. This one was really good because it had little slots across the chest and the back that you can add little 1 kg weights into to essentially increase the weight as you got stronger. So I love this. I found it really good because I could just progressively increase it as I improved, and that is what happened. So I started with about 5 kilos and I was able to just tweak it, see how I felt, remove it if it was too heavy. It was just really easy to adjust. I love that. I found it really convenient. It was a bit on the pricier end and not something that you definitely need to have, but if you're someone that just likes the cool gear that comes along with fitness, the vest is a very good one. So let's talk about the routine, because while I do say I did 1 month of this challenge, it wasn't a daily exercise that I was doing, and I was also balancing my regular gym routine as well. So what I aimed to do was at least 4 days a week of a ruck or a walk, and that was anywhere between half an hour to 40 minutes long. For the most part, I think I did about 5 each week, so that was really good. And alongside that, 3 times a week, I was doing my weights session in the gym. So that was just a simple push, pull, leg split. That was consistent throughout the 4 weeks as well. So whatever results I got, obviously wasn't solely because of the rucking, but that gym routine has been consistent for the last few months, and I wasn't going to stop that to just do rucking. I think it's a good addition to any overall fitness regime that someone has. And on at least 1 day of each week, I did do an extra long ruck, so that was about double the amount of what I was doing the other days of the week. Ended up being about an hour long, and it was usually on the Sunday. So let's just get into how it went overall. In all honesty, the first week was potentially the easiest one. I started off with 5 kilos in the vest and found this pretty comfortable to walk with. It was easy to get into the routine, probably because it was a bit exciting to start with, but as I got into the second week, that one was a bit challenging, and in all honesty, bad timing on my part. My birthday was smack bang in the second week, so I had a lot of things going on throughout the week that I wouldn't have had usually, which involved a lot of catching up with friends, catching up with family, eating not the best, and that just completely screwed up my routine. And that week it was definitely tricky to get the 4 days of the rucking going on, but we got through that. And in the third week I did increase my weight to 6 kilos. That felt great, and I think that felt the best because in the fourth week when I went up to 7 kilos, that was definitely too much too soon for me. It was starting to cause pain in my neck. I had a little bit of knee pain at one point, so I backed off, went back to 6 kilos, and we were all good. So important lesson, make sure you aren't going too heavy for something like this. You really don't need a lot of weight to get benefits from rucking. I think a lot of people say start with about 5 to 10% of your body weight, and 10% is a good place to really just hang on to until you are getting strong enough to just slowly add a little bit more at a time. It should just become easy, and if it's becoming easy, just add a little bit more. That's just progressive overload, and that is the simplest way to do it. Weight isn't actually the only way that you can increase the intensity with rucking. There are 3 ways that you can make it more challenging for yourself and that you can tweak it to get the most benefits, but depending on what you're needing. So as I said, you can increase the weight. The other thing you can do is increase the amount of time or the distance that you are walking. That one, obviously, if you're in a bit of a rush and you're trying to get the most out of a workout, and you don't have an hour or so every day, that's probably the most challenging way to increase intensity. The third thing you can do is actually increase your pace. So I'll be honest, I did this just at a little bit of a fast walking pace, but if I wanted to really push myself a little bit harder and I didn't have much time, I would just sort of go into a not a jog, but you can just increase the speed that you are walking, really making more effort for, and that would become challenging and you wouldn't need the same amount of time to get those benefits. So you can adjust the weight, you can adjust the distance, or you can adjust the speed at which you are walking. It's completely up to you and what you want to do. But I just want to focus on what I found the most difficult about this for a little bit, because it definitely did come with its challenges. And the number one hardest thing for me this entire month was definitely the weather. Again, my fault for picking this time of year. It is July, it is smack bang the middle of Australian winter, so yes, it was pretty cold, but that wasn't really the biggest issue for me because I found ways to get around the cold. I just sort of got my puffy jacket and covered up the vest and went for my walk. It did look a little bit strange. It was the rain that was the biggest problem. There was a few days where it was just, for lack of a better term, pissing down. So I had to get my good old umbrella and see what I can do, but I definitely missed out on a few days because of the weather, and that meant that I couldn't get the 5 days rather than the 4. Look, I was committed to getting at least 4 days, so there were a few days I just got soaked. That was definitely the most annoying thing, but that's good because I kind of know we're getting out of winter now, and I know the weather's actually going to be getting a little bit better as we get into September, October, and it just means that if I do want to continue with this, it'll be a lot easier to get it into my routine. Obviously, the other challenge that I think anyone has when it comes to adopting a new sort of exercise routine is just being tired, especially when it's days when I come home from work. I finish work at about 6 p.m. and because it's winter, it's really dark at that point, and I come home, I just want to be cozy and warm, but I had to just chuck on the vest, go outside and do the walk. But yeah, those were the main things. Other than that, I actually found it really enjoyable. I loved that I got to go outside. And I really like being out in nature and seeing the green, and it just really made me realize that I'm not out and about in nature a whole lot, so that's something I do want to do a little bit more of. It clears my head, it makes me feel good, it makes me feel relaxed, and I'm pretty sure that that's just a general consensus thing. Being out in nature is good for you. Now, I was also really lucky because pretty much on about 80% of all the days that I was doing this, my husband did join me for a walk, so that was another added benefit, and it just shows that this is something that can increase your socialization. It gets you talking to someone, which is really good for your mental health, and it was really good to just de-stress. We used it as a way to just catch up on each other's day. It's good for our relationship and it's good for stress levels overall. So you don't have to do this alone. Grab someone, go for a walk, double the benefits. But I think it is time to get into the exciting stuff, which is talking about the results. What happened at the end? What has changed? Let's talk about it. So now this was what I was looking like at the beginning when this started, so just before I started the month, and this is what I'm looking at now at the end of this 1 month of doing rucking 4 to 5 times a week for about half an hour. So the main reason I wanted to point this out is you can probably see this is not a drastic physical change. I was not expecting it to be a drastic change in terms of what I looked like. And that is because 1 month is a very, very small amount of time, and it's not realistic really to expect a huge change in that amount of time. If we want to talk about numbers on the scale, at the start, I was weighing about 55 kilos, and here, after the 1 month, I've only lost, I'm 53. So 2 kilo difference between the beginning of the month and now. And again, that's actually not a lot, but I will have to point out that I think I've gained muscle in the month as well, and muscle weighs more than fat, so this change is probably more reflective of the fact that some body fat has most likely been lost, but also replaced with muscle, which has meant that the weight difference on the scale, it isn't going to be too much. But it was never going to be too much because I wasn't starting from a very high number in the first place. And unfortunately, I do not have the means to get a DEXA scan, so I can't really show the actual exact change in lean muscle mass and body fat loss. But from what I can see, I do think a little bit of body recomposition has happened, which means a little bit of fat loss, a little bit of muscle gain. And that's great for my goals. So everyone, like I've said before, everyone has different goals. You just have to do what matches your own goals. Now, the main improvement and the main change that has happened over the month is actually in terms of strength. I have made a lot of strength gains. All of my lifts in the gym across the month now, they have all increased, and I've hit quite a few personal bests. My bench press has gone up, my deadlift has gone up, my squat has gone up, and even the minor lifts that I've been doing, like bent over rows, dips, pull-ups, machine-based exercises, everything has gone up in weight, which yes, you can say is just normal progression because I've consistently gone to the gym, but I do feel that doing the rucking has sped up the speed increase and really benefited me in the gym. So that to me is the number one benefit that I've received from this past month, and because of that, it is most definitely something I'm going to be continuing after giving myself a little bit of a 1 or 2 week break. It's worked so well with the gym, and I would recommend it for anyone that's trying to get some strength gains and looking for a little bit of extra help there. It's an easy thing to do, and it really pays off in the gym and elsewhere. So that is definitely my favorite benefit from the entire month. I will also say my endurance has increased. So as I said before, I'm not much of a runner, and anytime I did exercises that required a bit more endurance, I wasn't the best at it. But I have noticed now I can go a bit longer doing certain exercises, whereas I used to get tired much earlier on. So benefits all around: strength, endurance, a little bit of weight loss. So yeah, those are the results of just 1 month. And like I said, 4 weeks is not a long amount of time and not enough time to see a drastic change in your physique. So if you're looking for something that's going to give you quick results, this isn't the place. This is not the channel. It's called Long Game. It's going to take a while. What I wanted to do was show you a bit of a realistic change in physique that could happen in a month without making a drastic change. So this was something that slotted relatively easy into my routine. I didn't have to put too much effort into doing this, and as a result, it's giving me sustainable change in the right direction of where I want to go. So I'm definitely going to continue this, and maybe in about 6 months time, I'll show where that's at. And it's all just to show you that good things take time. Changes to your physique, if that's what you're after, are going to take a long time of consistency. And it's not just about that, because exercise, it prevents so much chronic disease. It's going to be good for you years to come from now. So don't just think about, oh, I'm going to only do it for 12 weeks because then I'll get the change that I want. Go in the mindset of, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So how can I fit it into my life so that I can sustain it for that long? That's why when you do 12-week challenges, after that, the weight tends to come back on. Slow and steady, that's the way. That's the only thing I'm really going to showcase on this channel. Unless you're doing like a bodybuilding prep show or some sort of elite level sport, there's no reason to drastically change your body's appearance in that short of a time. I understand if you're competing, that's your sport, that's what you're doing, of course. But for the average person, it needs to be sustainable, it needs to be slow, and it needs to be something that you can maintain so that you can get the benefits years down the track. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this video. I really enjoyed doing this challenge. Like I said, I will continue to add this into my routine. Maybe not stressing about making sure I do it 4 to 5 times a week, but definitely when I can, I will be going for a little ruck and seeing how high I can increase that weight. So I encourage you all, if you are able to, try and get into rucking. Start off with the tiniest of weight. One thing to note, if you are already overweight or obese, at that point you don't actually need to put on the weight. You can actually just go for walks to start with, and the excess body weight on you is enough to get some tangible results from doing this. It counts as having the weighted vest on. And as you lose weight, you can then consider putting on the weighted vest. We don't want to go too heavy. That increases your risk of injury. Just be safe and do things sensibly. Let me know if you are someone who has tried this, if you're gonna try it, your thoughts. comment below. If you have already tried rucking, I would love to hear how you've gone with it. And if you have any different exercise styles that I can add to my current regime, I'd love to hear them so I can give them a try. I kind of like doing these 1 month challenges. It spices things up a bit, keeps things interesting for me. Probably in a few months time, I'll just show progress if there is any, but I am very happy with where things are going, especially in terms of the strength gains. So yeah, see you in the next video, and until then, keep playing the long game.